Welcome to Prep Central, New Mexico's premier high school sports show. This show is presented by Western New Mexico University. If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us continue to bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as on all your favorite platforms like YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, and SoundCloud. See the show notes for a discount on a digital subscription. We hope you'll consider that. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading local news source. Hey, everyone. On this week's podcast, Preps Central, we're going to talk about a lot of stuff. We're going to talk about Charlie Vause of Rio Rancho becoming a national Gatorade Athlete of the Year and the repercussions of that. We're going to talk a little bit of high school basketball. Not going to be a lot of basketball on today's podcast. We're going to talk about it some. We're going to talk about Sandia football's new hire as head coach. And we're going to talk just briefly about state swimming and wrestling coming up this weekend, including a very specific chase for a fourth title by Mason Posa. So all of that on the show today. I hope you'll watch. Hey everyone, welcome. I am James Yodice. I'm the high school sports editor at the Albuquerque Journal. Welcome to Preps Central, the Albuquerque Journal's high school sports podcast. A lot to talk about this week. Before we get to any of it, first want to acknowledge our sponsor, Western New Mexico University. We thank them as always for their support and their contributions to make this possible. We're going to talk some football, some basketball, some wrestling, some swimming. But the lead item today is going to involve Charlie Vause, the senior runner at Rio Rancho High School. As I sit here, it's Wednesday, the 19th. Yesterday, Tuesday, he received the Gatorade National Award for Boys Cross Country Runner of the Year for the 2024 season. And Charlie is just the second New Mexican athlete ever to receive national recognition from Gatorade. The great Curtis Beach in boys track and field, and later he went to Duke, I think, and became a great decathlete. Curtis got the award in 2008, 2009 for boys track and field. That is the only other New Mexican that has ever received a national award from Gatorade. Gatorade, of course, names athletes of the year on a statewide basis in like 12 sports. And Charlie last week was named the Gatorade New Mexico Cross Country Runner of the Year. This was a fairly huge development. You have to keep in mind, Charlie didn't even win his own state meet, which would make his selection kind of unusual. He finished second at the state meet in November at Academy behind Corbin Coombs, the great Corbin Coombs from Oregon Mountain. But what Charlie did that probably cemented his being chosen as the national and for some reason, as a side note, Gatorade calls it the Player of the Year, which is not right. This should not be the case for cross-country athletes. It should be either Athlete of the Year or Runner of the Year. The trophy that Charlie received, which is super impressive, by the way. I saw it yesterday. It has on there Player of the Year, which looks kind of ridiculous if you're a cross-country runner. I had a lot of feedback about that, and they're right. The trophy really should have said Runner of the Year or Athlete of the Year. That's a side note. But what probably cemented Charlie's selection was his performance at the Nike Cross Nationals, which was early December in Portland, a race that he won, the first New Mexican to win that race. He won it in the rain and the mud. Just a fantastic performance there. And, of course, Charlie, since he moved to New Mexico from Ohio before the 23-24 school year, I first met him at his start of his junior year, the first race of the season out at Cleveland High School. He won that. I had never even heard of him before. And I interviewed him and discovered a little bit about his background. He moved here because one of his parents had work that brought them from the Midwest here to New Mexico. Charlie has been fantastic on the course, just about every race he's been in. So his performance in Portland, it certainly not the only factor, but probably the overriding factor as to why he was given this award. Grant Fisher, an Olympic runner in his own right, was here in Rio Rancho Tuesday morning, to give Charlie his award. Surprised him. Charlie didn't know what it was about. And Charlie was really surprised and thrilled to get his award, from an Olympian. So we are here with Charlie Vause, who is the 2024 National Cross Country Runner of the Year. I wondered, as you walked up to the steps to the practice football field up there, you could not have known what was coming. Tell me, as you got to the top step, your first thought.
My first thought was, what is Grant Fisher doing at my track? And I walked up a little further, and I saw a bunch of people from Gatorade, and I was like, oh my goodness, this is for the national player thing, and I just couldn't even believe it. It was incredible. I'm still processing it.
I wanted to ask you, it's been about 20 minutes now. Have you had a chance to settle in a little bit?
I guess it's real now. Okay. But, yeah.
Last 10 days, you were in New York for the Melrose Games.
Yeah.
You signed with BYU.
Yeah.
You got the state cross-country Gatorade Award and now the national award. Can you just put into context this last week and a half?
Dreams coming to fruition, I think. Incredible blessings and hard work paying off. And I'm just beyond grateful for the place I am now and for everyone who's helped me get there. It's been such a journey.
So last thing, when you moved here from Ohio, could you even have imagined the kind of success you had had culminating in a moment like this?
No, but I dreamed of it. I remember telling my coach freshman or sophomore year, I said, Coach, by the time I'm a senior, I want to be one of the best recruits in the nation. Like, I want to be one of the best. And he was very patient. He said, you know what, I believe in you. You can do it if you put your mind to it. But he seemed kind of skeptical, and it's just crazy to see that that's come to pass. Yeah.
That is the big news of the week. More so because we only had 2 kids now that have ever achieved this. And, we've talked a lot on this podcast about New Mexico kids and their visibility outside the state. And we're going to talk some more about that today. In the sense that this recognition for Charlie, and I'm sorry, I have a little bit of an itchy nose today. I'm sorry about that. His victory in Portland was a first for a New Mexican athlete in that race. Then he becomes just the second kid from the state to receive a Gatorade National Award. This is just the most extremely prestigious recognition that you could possibly receive. But it's been kind of a trend, if you think about it, over the last, year or so, maybe. If you think about New Mexico kids or even teams that are making a name for themselves outside the state, which is something that comes up from time to time. So you're thinking, and I wrote, and I jogged down some notes just to help remind me. Think about the La Cueva football team that went out of state, beat a team from Arizona, from Phoenix. Not the best Phoenix team, but they still stepped out, beat a team from a major metro area. That was a big step forward. No APS team had accomplished a victory as significant in the regular season as that one, and that was a game they ended up winning in 2 overtimes. So many people have talked about and argued that these teams here in the metro area could step out of state and play teams from out of state, which they can. Can they beat the top level teams? No, they can't. We're not there yet. And anybody that thinks otherwise, you're just fooling yourself. But they are moving in that direction. They're getting closer, to be fair. So think about Bella Hines, who was at El Dorado. Now she's finishing up her high school eligibility with ABC Prep, which is not an NMAA high school, just to be clear. She went over 3,000 points this year for her high school age years. I have a hard time discussing it in terms of high school. She's not an NMAA kid anymore, and she's not going to be recognized at the top of that list, and nor should she be. But Bella became a top 25, top 30 recruit in the country, brought as much visibility to girls basketball in New Mexico as anybody I can think of in my whole career, which is pretty lengthy. She's joining LSU. She got herself a marketing deal. She has splashed on the stage in a national way. Sydney Benally from Sandia, to a lesser degree, both those kids are in the top 100 in terms of recruits from the class of 2025. Sydney's further down the list between like 80 and 90. But Bella in particular has brought a huge spotlight on New Mexico girls basketball. Think about Diego Pavia, who used to play at St. Pius first, then he went to Volcano Vista. Diego is now a starting quarterback for an SEC program. Who would have guessed that when he left Volcano Vista and he started his career at NIMI? Who could have guessed that he would end up being a starting quarterback for Vanderbilt in the SEC? Not just a starting quarterback, but a pretty good one who helped the Commodores to a couple of really big wins, including that one that we all remember against Alabama. Diego has become a national name. This is a kid that went to school in New Mexico. Think about Cam Dyer and Mason Posa, who played football at La Cueva. Cam, of course, signed to play football with Arizona State, then unfortunately suffered an ACL injury late last fall in the semifinals and the championship game here for La Cueva. He had surgery recently. He's going to be out for a good long while, maybe all of the 25 season for Arizona State. He's hoping to come back. But Cam Dyer was ranked by a couple of entities as the number one recruit for Arizona State. And Arizona State just made the college football playoff this last fall as the Big 12 champion. Then you have Mason Posa, who signed with Wisconsin. He was rated as the top football recruit for Wisconsin, a Big 10 school. So you have two New Mexico kids, both rated as the top recruit for, I guess we can call it Power 4 conferences now in football. And Mason, who's just been an amazing linebacker for La Cueva his whole career. Cam, of course, was his quarterback at La Cueva. So we have two national programs who have a kid from New Mexico identified as generally their top recruit in their class. That is really unusual. So we have that to think about. So we have been inching, I think, closer in that direction where New Mexico kids are getting more attention and more respect. Probably not as much as many people think they should. And look, I've been doing this job long enough. The refrain has always been, from when I was a young boy myself, when I was a teenager and I started at this job, that New Mexico kids were not really being given a chance to excel outside the state. I'm not counting kids that go to play at UNM or New Mexico State or even one of the state schools. They weren't really being given much look or opportunity outside the state. Yeah, there were a few here and there, of course. But people have long argued, well, we have kids who should be playing at the next level and be getting more attention than they are. I'm of two minds on this. I'm not entirely sure I agree with that 100%. I think what I would say is it is clear that New Mexico is producing more quality prep athletes than ever before. And consequently, more of them are now getting a chance to go outside the state. Of course, we all wish they would stay inside the state, but we get why they're leaving. But more of them are now getting a chance to compete outside the state and shine. All those examples I just gave you, and that's a small number. But look, I'm not sure that the kids from 30 years ago, 35 years ago, I'm not sure New Mexico had that depth of quality athlete that everybody seems to think we had. That's just me. We had a lot of good ones. I'm not saying we didn't. But we have more of them now, and so consequently, more of them are getting noticed, more of them are getting written about, more of them are getting recruited heavily outside the state. Think about Harper Dunn from Corona, the 6'6" sophomore who already has 1,000 points and 1,000 rebounds at Corona. She is the next major girls basketball recruit on the radar coming up in New Mexico. By the time she's a senior, she's likely to have at least as many offers, if not more, than Bella Hines did, just because of her size, making her unique in that way. So the Charlie Vause thing, circling back, brings to the forefront the fact that more kids from New Mexico are making names and succeeding and excelling outside the state. That's good for everybody. That means that the upcoming kids even that are in the class of 2025, like this year, are going to get more attention, more credibility, and that's good. That brings more eyeballs to these kids, either through their high school events or their club events, which is frankly where so many kids get recruited in the other sports, not necessarily football, but soccer or baseball or volleyball. This is where so many kids really, truly get recruited to the next level, not their high school seasons at all. So I like that, and that's why I wanted to start the podcast today with this. And Charlie's such a good kid. He just signed with BYU last week. He's really a well-spoken young man. He has his priorities in order. He's very popular with his teammates and classmates, and it was a fantastic thing to see him rewarded and to see his genuinely surprised reaction when he was handed this award. On my social media account, at James Yodice on X, I posted a photo of the trophy if you want to look at it. It's a really impressive piece of hardware. The fact that it says player of the year, I hate that. It should be something else, but that's a complete nitpick. It's a super impressive piece of hardware. And he just competed in New York City at the Milrose Games, 11 days ago as I sit here now, signed with BYU. He was named the New Mexico Gatorade Runner of the Year and now the National Award. So for Charlie, just a great 2 weeks and more proof that we are getting more kids who can compete at the next level. Okay, so moving on. Let's talk a little basketball, and it's going to be very abbreviated in terms of basketball today. Look, as I sit here, we only have 4 days left in the regular season: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. There are still quite a few districts that have business left to finish in terms of who wins the regular season and whatnot, and teams jostling for position in the standings, hoping they can do enough to get themselves a top 8 seed and a first-round home game. To that end, I'm going to talk primarily about one district today. I could probably talk about 15 of them, but we don't have time for that. District 2-5A boys. As I sit here, it's Wednesday. You have Sandia boys and Santa Fe tied for first at 7-1. La Cueva is a game behind. La Cueva tonight, Wednesday night, as you see this, they will already have played, had a Wednesday night game at Santa Fe. And then Sandia is visiting Santa Fe on Friday, a game I probably will attend later in the week. So there is still the possibility for a two-way tie in this district. There is the possibility for a three-way tie if La Cueva should have won Wednesday night tonight, and then Santa Fe turns around and beats Sandia on Friday. We could very well end up with a three-way tie in this district. And then all the tiebreakers, which you don't need to know about now, come into play. If Santa Fe beat La Cueva on Wednesday night, again, as you see this, they will have already played. Then basically what you get is Sandia and Santa Fe playing Friday night outright for the District 2-5A regular season title. I wanted to mention this district specifically because if you look at the Max Preps computer poll, look, on the criteria that grades prep basketball teams in any class, either gender, two of the criteria are their rankings in the Max Preps poll and the coaches sheet, which essentially is the coaches get together and vote on the top 16 at the end of the district tournaments, which is a week from Saturday. So you have two different polls that are both criteria points in terms of seeding teams for the playoffs. So I was looking at it today. Santa Fe right now is ranked 8th. La Cueva is ranked 10th. Both of these teams are angling to get a first-round home game. I would suggest that this is much more important to Santa Fe than it would be to La Cueva, simply because I think Santa Fe has more of a home court advantage than La Cueva does. If you've ever been to Santa Fe's gym, you probably know what I'm talking about. If you haven't, it's one of those rare gyms with seating on all four sides. It's really, and when the gym is packed and crowded and loud and energetic and electric, it can be a very tough environment to play in, more so than you would get at La Cueva, with all due respect to La Cueva. So Santa Fe right now at 8, can they do enough to stay in the top 8? I guarantee that's what coaches are talking about in Santa Fe. They want to do all they can. Beating La Cueva tonight would be a huge step, maybe enough, I don't know, to getting a top 8 seed. La Cueva probably more urgently needs to win, or La Cueva is going to end up on the road somewhere in the first round, which would be a scary thing for anybody that plays La Cueva. La Cueva has been playing as good a basketball as most everyone not named Volcano Vista over the last month or so. La Cueva is playing some really good basketball. They beat Sandia once, only lost to them by 3 the second time, and that was because they missed a couple of three-pointers right at the end. La Cueva is playing really good basketball. They've turned out better than I thought they would. Honestly, back in November when I talked to Coach Eric Orell, he knew they had a lot of new faces. Cam Dyer graduated early to go to Arizona State. Cam would have been a key player on this team, and a couple other players who would have still been playing at La Cueva who went elsewhere. So La Cueva has managed really nicely with their guards, Bramlett and Cowles, and Hunter Butler, their forward, who's led the team in scoring. They've got some kids that can fill it up. They play good defense. So La Cueva is one of those teams you wouldn't want to play if you were the home team and La Cueva had to travel to see you in the first round. That would be a tough matchup. So as far as District 2-5A is concerned, that's the district I'm most keeping an eye on over the next several days. Teams that are ranked either in the coaches poll or in the Max Press poll, teams that are ranked in that 7 to 10 or 11 range, they're all eager and anxious because they're all trying to do everything they can either at the end of the regular season or in the district tournament to get themselves a first round home game. You never know who you might end up playing on the road. You have teams out there that are going to be in the top 8 from outside the metro area. I wouldn't say Hobbs is necessarily one of those examples because Hobbs is likely to be a 2 or 3 seed, but you got Roswell, you got Oregon Mountain. There are some teams you would not want to go travel and play in the first round for sure. Not just because of the travel, but just because it's tough. It's a tough road environment in the state tournament, more so maybe even than football. The teams that get the first round bye. So district tournaments begin next Monday. And then we'll end next Saturday, March 1st, with championship games. The state tournament brackets, as a reminder, will be out Sunday, March 2nd. Okay, let's kind of finish up things. I've got a couple of miscellaneous items I want to get to today. First, Sandia High School, since we last met, named a new head football coach, Tylon Wilder, who was the head coach at Espanola Valley and had great success in 3 years there. They went 6-4, 8-4, 9-4. So 23-12 in 3 years at Espanola, which has never really been a football school to begin with. And he got them to the state semifinals last November, where they lost here in Albuquerque to St. Pius. He's a really interesting guy. He's a former Marine. He described himself as a rodeo guy at heart. He's from Hobbs. He's very very positive, very energetic. He's going to bring a lot of emotion to this job. I had a really interesting chat with him the other day. And right at the end of the conversation, when I was getting ready to hang up the phone with him, he's like, James, I'm telling you, we are going to be physical. We're going to be physical. He was really, I could hear how fired up he was over the phone. So we wish him well. Look, if you know prep football here in the metro area, and specifically Albuquerque Public Schools, look, you have La Cueva and you have Volcano Vista, and then everybody else. No offense. Nobody else has really been able to step in and compete with those two for a number of years now. You'd have La Cueva up here, Volcano Vista, in that next tier, and then everybody else far below, and that could include Sandia or El Dorado or whoever. It would be nice, I think, to see another APS school get into the mix and challenge. Of course, Sandia is in La Cueva's district, so it would be nice to see Wilder have some success at Sandia and get them into the picture on more of a statewide basis and specifically on a citywide basis. Look, like I said, the guy has a lot of energy, but this is going to be a daunting task. Sandia is one of those campuses that's very landlocked, and by that I mean there are no new neighborhoods going up around Sandia. These are all established, kind of like Del Norte a little bit, and Highland to a certain degree. Some of these schools are very landlocked. There's no new kids moving in. It's the kids who are growing up in that neighborhood or kids that are transferring in. This happens a lot, in the center of Albuquerque. Why do schools like Volcano and Cleveland and Rio Rancho continue to do so well? Look, they get a lot of kids moving into those neighborhoods to play a sport. That's the simple truth. They do because of the quality of the programs at all of those schools. Now, this does not apply necessarily to everyone, like a West Mesa or an Atrisco Heritage, for example. But the landlocked schools in APS, and like I said, I'm thinking specifically of Del Norte and Sandia. Like I said, a little bit of Highland, maybe even Valley a little bit as well, although Valley's not an upper-level school. It's tough to find kids. You got to do a great job recruiting on your campus to get kids out to play. Now, like Sandia was just a 4 seed in the state playoffs November before last, 2023. They got a first-round bye. So it's there. Chad Adcox, who resigned last month and is going to stay on just as Sandia's athletic director. Look, he won a state title with Manzano, the Jordan Bird Manzano team back in 2017. Got Sandia to a 4 seed 2 seasons ago. They made the playoffs last year, lost as a 10 seed to Rio Rancho. So Sandia does have kids, and they can win, but do they have enough? I mean, numbers, as I always say, numbers, look, in football more than any other sport, you got to have numbers. The teams that are doing the best, and I'm thinking about Cleveland, Rio Rancho, Volcano, and specifically, their numbers are great. La Cueva's numbers are pretty solid too, maybe not as robust as those other 3, but you got to have numbers in football. And so Coach Wilder is going to have to get out and become a salesman and try and get kids out playing. They've got good skill kids, but I really hope that we get that infusion of talent and energy that maybe elevates Sandia to that next level where they can play La Cueva and challenge them and be a legitimate threat. I think APS could use that. We have 2 teams, as I said, that are way above the rest, and the other 11, some of them are 5A teams. Manzano's now 4A. Some of them are 5A. But if you're thinking about some of the others like Cibola with new coach David Howes, or Atrisco, or West Mesa, or Sandia, or El Dorado, all of these teams, they're all far behind La Cueva and Volcano. So I wish Coach Wilder well. I would love to see Sandia get back in the mix. It's been a while since Sandia's been in a state championship game. So I wish him well. And he's going to be fun to talk to and fun to deal with. Like I said, he brings a lot of energy to the job and enthusiasm and confidence. Boy, that's something I think that'll be a good sales pitch for any kid at Sandia. If they're thinking about playing football and they're on the fence, he's a really confident guy, and he believes in his style. And it worked at Espanola, a school I never would have imagined in my whole career could end up in the state semifinals in football, and yet here they were last fall in the Final Four. I, honest to God, never could have imagined that happening at a school that was always considered a basketball school. Same with Bernalillo. Bernalillo was in the other semifinal game against Bloomfield. To get Bernalillo and Espanola in the semifinals in the same season, 2 long traditional basketball programs, tells me that even at Sandia, with some of the restrictions I just mentioned, anything can happen. You just don't know. You get the right kids coming in. Like I said, Sandia often has been reliant on transfers coming in. We'll see. They do have some good kids to build around, and we're going to see how that pans out for Sandia. So I'll be really interested come August how Sandia looks. Last item for today. State swimming, state wrestling, both of them this weekend. Swimming Friday and Saturday at Albuquerque Academy. Wrestling Friday and Saturday at the Rio Rancho Event Center. I will be at wrestling as I usually am on Saturday. I'm going to make one quick note about Mason Posa, who we were just talking about a few minutes ago. Mason went to regionals last weekend and became the number 1 seed in the heavyweight division. This is significant because he's already won 3 state championships at 3 other weights, including 215 pounds last year. 215 is the second heaviest weight in prep wrestling. Then there's a heavyweight division. Mason went out and won the Metro tournament at Rio Grande several weeks back in the heavyweight division, where he had to wrestle 4 times in a single day. He told me he was exhausted. He's not going to have to do that at state. He'll wrestle a couple of rounds on Friday, a couple of rounds on Saturday. So the format of the tournament will be more favorable for him. But I love that Mason has decided to challenge himself. He could have stayed at 215 and dominated completely, no issue whatsoever. Nobody can touch him at 215 unless he was injured. He goes into heavyweight where it's a little bit more of a question mark because he may see some kids he hasn't seen before from outside the metro area. So I love that Mason has decided to test himself this way, and that is, to me, the best storyline come Saturday, assuming that he is still around come the championship match, his pursuit of a 4th individual title in 4 different weight classes, which just isn't done. I can't sit here and say that nobody's ever done it. I've heard people say that to me, that he would be the first. I can't say that for 100%. I do not know that. I've been trying to get an answer on that. But he would be on the super short list, maybe the only one on the list, if he happens to win a title on Saturday. So we'll have all the girls' action and then the 2 boys' divisions. There's 1A through 4A. And then the 5A are separate. So I'll be out there at the Rio Rancho Event Center on Saturday. There'll be a lot of fun storylines in both genders. In the meantime, I'm going to wrap it up for today. Thanks for watching. Once again, we thank Western New Mexico University for their support and their sponsorship. of Prep Central. Next week, we'll recap a little bit of swimming and wrestling. And next week will be by far a more basketball-heavy podcast. We got baseball and softball coming up starting this weekend for some teams already, and for a good number of local teams here in the metro area next week. So I'm busy working on that as well for next week. So we got a lot to talk about coming up. In the meantime, have a great week. Enjoy the basketball, and I will see you in a week. Have a great day.